Welcome back. It's a pleasure to see you again here on YouTube Live and LinkedIn Live on another episode of the Top Innovator Series, where we dive into proven leadership ideas and, of course, we talk about the brilliant minds behind them. With us today is Paul Hurd. Paul is a fractional CIO with SBase Technologies. Before that, he held other tech executive roles for various companies, including Mimecast, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, and DaimlerChrysler. And Paul and we had a conversation before, and we discovered some similarities in our CV, and I just want to mention that here real quick. We studied at similar places and worked for the same company at the same time. Similar places, right? Paul went to Oxford, I went to Cambridge. Of course, Paul, poor choice on your side, but there you go.
We can debate that.
But I have to say something like that. And we both worked for DaimlerChrysler in the past as well. So I'm thrilled, Paul, to have you in the conversation here. Thank you for being here.
I'm delighted to be here.
Awesome. Topic is leadership and your leadership journey and what your insights are that you learned on that journey. When you think about your progression, when you think about your evolution as a leader, what would you say are some of the secret ingredients to that? What do you think are some of the tools that you keep relying on? What are some of the things that you keep using as your leadership tools?
I think being inquisitive is one of the key contributors to being a successful leader. You really need to understand the people that you are working with and what's driving them, what are they thinking, not just try to tell them what to do or assume that they're thinking something, but actually genuinely be interested in finding out what they're thinking, why they're thinking it, why they're proposing something. And I think that gives you that two-way engagement. It helps people to have more engagement and interest in what they're doing. And I think that leads to a successful leadership engagement.
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple of things I heard there. First of all, people, right? The focus on people. And I also heard open-mindedness, curiosity in there. And a lot of tech executives or tech leaders or technologists at least would be different in both respects, right? They would focus on technology or subject matter expertise and again, focus on knowledge instead of curiosity. Is that something, what you described there, is that something that was clear to you the whole time, or was this something that you discovered as part of your leadership journey?
I think it's something that I discovered on the journey. I originally was more of a technology person. I was a developer. I loved doing the technology myself. And it wasn't sort of a rapid, immediate, I've got to be a manager. And so I had some experience being an individual contributor first and having different managers and seeing how they treated you and what worked, what didn't work, what motivated. And I think that was a great opportunity to learn different styles and get some practice yourself. And then, obviously you grew into management and senior positions. And so you took those skills with you on the journey. But yeah, it was definitely not an innate skill to do that in the early days.
Yeah. So talk to us about that shift. What was that like? What were some of the difficulties associated with that shift? What were some aha moments or surprises that came with that shift?
Well, being a technology expert, I think one of the hardest things is getting to the stage where you no longer are the best person on the team and you don't know how to do things that the team does. So like your first management position, pretty much you get promoted because you're really good at something and you can do anything that the team could do. But then you grow and you move into other areas. And I think I started like, I've got to learn all this. I've got to be, as good as the team. But ultimately, that's not your role. And your skills are about leadership, direction, support. They're less of the, I can solve this problem. And I think you have to adjust your thinking as to what's important and what your role and capability should be and stop worrying about the fact that maybe you don't know how this technology works anymore. And I think that's quite a transition for, at least for me, when I made that journey from being a technical expert into a manager.
Yeah. And after that, what other surprises did you encounter? What were things on your leadership journey where you thought, I think I know how this works. I have an idea how this is going to work, and then reality turned out to be slightly different.
I think in those early days, one of the key things, and it's kind of linked to feeling that you know how to do things, is that execution and the capability to get things done is only a fraction of the picture. And so, like, well, I'm the best. Like, my team always produces, we hit our numbers, you get the job done. Well, why am I not, being promoted, paid more money, et cetera, et cetera? And that isn't really how it happens. Like, it's about relationships. It's about talking and being in the right place at the right time. And I think you have to start accepting that it's that broader perspective that's actually important in how companies are led. People make decisions based on trusting others. And so building that relationship and that trust is not just, well, because I did a good job and I got the work done on time. It's, do you understand me? Do you have a rapport? Do I trust you, etc.? And so you have to put the effort into those non-deliverable activities as much as you have to in terms of just literally, getting the tasks done on time.
Is that something that you're able to convey to your team? Is that an experience that you're actually able to share with them in a way that they don't have to make the mistakes themselves? That they maybe that's wishful thinking, and you can tell me right away.
I think it can be a little challenging. Being an IT leader, you have a lot of very strong technical resources
Right.
in the team, engineers, architects, etc. And they're very focused on doing the right thing. And so their ability to understand the tools, the technology, etc., is really where they see the self-value. And for you to come in and say, well, actually, your ability to sing, dance, and wave your arms around is equally important, doesn't resonate. It just doesn't work. And I think the trick there is how to understand in their own language, how do they have more influence? How do they get the decisions heading in the direction that they want? How do they take their skills and their knowledge, but make it happen? And I think that's where you try to coach them. And it's less really that political side that you story them about, but it's about how to create more impact with their technical decisions, how to make people accept and understand them and move forward. And so, yeah, I think you do coach them to be more effective. But I would steer people away from like, oh, you've got to be a politician here. You've got to be able to, smooth with people and chat them up. Like, it doesn't work with the technical, skilled people.
I really like the fact that you've used the word coach there, to coach the people to get there, right? Because every time a behavior change is involved, coaching is really the right tool to use. Tell me more about how you would go about that. So how do you open the perspective, and how do you make them see that the tools that they believe create influence may not be the ones that help them accelerate their career?
I actually think it's good to start with yourself and what's your value to the organization. So as a leader, I've always seen like the output or the ability of the whole team is what you're actually responsible for. And so that helps. Like, that helped me in my first journey from it's not whether I can technically do this anymore. It's really what we as a team achieve. And so I think that helps you get motivation as a leader, that actually it's about making sure that everybody who works for you is going to be successful, because that's how to improve the overall output. So that's the kind of first positioning, I think. And then in terms of coaching the team, I think you have to just take them through the journey. What are they trying to achieve? Well, we want this decision made. Great. We all aligned with that. Okay, so how do we make this decision? How do we decide that this architecture is the right answer and we're going to have to buy this new tool or whatever it is that they're trying to sell? And help them to understand like how other people are going to make those decisions and what they need. And they need confidence, they need trust, they need to understand how it impacts them going forward. And not just, well, I've got 6 choices and this is the highest ranked one. It's not going to work.
Right.
So So I feel like you give them that broader picture and how they can influence. Um, I feel like I did a really good job in terms of helping some of my team feel that they should influence folks. I took over a team that they very much felt that they had to do what they were told. You know, that was the history of the organization. And I started with, we need to have a point of view. That's it. I don't mind, you know, whether it happens or it doesn't happen, but I do want to know what your point of view is. And so that started just the internal discussions within the team. Well, okay, what's your point of view? And you know, the initial answer is, well, I'm just waiting for the business to tell me what it needs to be. No, 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 it has to be, you know, your point of view. And so when they got comfortable with that, I think the next big step was, well, I need you to share your point of view with a business partner. And and that then was kind of something that we took and got feedback. Well, how did it go? Oh, actually, it went really well, and they were very interested, and they were surprised that I did that. And so it really was a reinforcing process because suddenly the business didn't necessarily, oh, just fall over and go, oh yeah, we'll do everything you want. But it's like, oh, that's a good idea. Let's think about this. And they were willing to listen and engage. And it helped transform the organization to feel that people were interested in what they thought.
Really nice, really nice. And I imagine it changed the relationships as well between your team and the other parts of the business, right?
Well, it did because I think what happens if you're not able to articulate and share your perspective, um, you end up getting a lot of frustration in the team. And so I'd heard this, oh, we have to do it this way. We hate it. We don't like this. You know, we shouldn't do this. And it's like, well, you know, when did we try to influence and steer the direction? Oh, no, we have to do what we're told. And so like by moving to, even if we didn't necessarily go our way and we carried on doing whatever we were doing in the past, at least we felt like we had a good discussion. We understood the reasons why we were not going to do it the IT way. But quite often, IT had a good idea, and we did improve how things operated.
Yep. Yep. Let me take another look at your journey from a different perspective. I'm sure you had many mentors, trusted advisors, or folks who were alongside you on your journey. Talk to me about the advice that you got from them. What were some of the insights they shared, and maybe even something where you first thought, this is totally stupid, this makes no sense, and then as wisdom set in, you realized, maybe there was something to that.
One thing stands out, and maybe I'll think of some others, is the amount of risk that I was comfortable taking. I gave you my background. I'm quite technical, and so like I like to think things through and like, yep, you know, we can hit the date. We can make this work. We will be successful. It was my design, and consequently, you're a little conservative. Like if you want to be confident, you've got to have some risk mitigation in there. And I had a boss. It's like, yeah, we want to go faster than this. We want to do it, you know, more aggressively. And it's like, but we could fail. Like we may not be successful because the plan didn't really line up to what he wanted to do. It's like, well, there's a whole bunch of unknowns that we'd have to sort out if we're going to do that. And it took me some time, I think, to kind of accept that model that probably honestly, like we would fail. Like he was being too ambitious, but deliberately. And I was being too conservative. And I always was going to hit it. But his point was, well, actually, it's good that you try something faster. Even if you fail a little bit, you're still better than being conservative. And so that was pretty much the thought. Like you might say, I'm going for this, knowing that it's fairly unlikely you're going to succeed exactly at that, but you'll achieve something way better than being conservative. That was a key learning. And so quite often now, like we look for ambitious plans and try to achieve something and then be creative during the journey. How do we do that? Rather than like, oh, let's hit the target, where you're not pushing and being as aggressive as you go through the plan.
Yeah. So it's really the encouragement to lean more into risk, right? And also to see what is your completion rate. If you have 100% completion rate, it probably means you haven't aimed high enough.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you. So we talked about the past. Let's take a look at today, Paul. I'm curious, when you look at where you are today, and this is not about positions or companies, it's about your leadership journey. What are focus areas for you at the moment? What are areas where you see, I can grow here, I can do something here, or this is an area where I want to spend my energy on my own development, my own growth?
Well, I've started this advisory practice, and I'm finding that I'm challenging myself to do things that I haven't done before. And I have, background in the space, but I'm having to do something a little bit different. And that is very invigorating. I think, stimulating. It's, oh, gosh, how do we make this successful? So a little bit like that risk situation. Like, don't be conservative. It's if you want to be stimulated and you want to grow, then you have to try and take some things that you haven't done before. And so, like, a number of my clients are founders and startup CEOs, and advising them and guiding them. I haven't been a software CEO founder myself, but I have worked in the industry and seen a lot of successes and failures. And so I'm bringing a lot of value to them. But I'm also bringing a lot to myself, because it's the ability to do something a little different, very stimulating, very interesting, and some fantastic people I work with.
Yeah, I imagine that's probably quite a range of challenges that you're confronted with there.
Yeah.
Let's take a look in the future. Let's assume we have this conversation again in 3 years' time, 5 years' time. I don't know, something like that. What do you think might change about your perspective on leadership by then? And I know we don't have a perfect crystal ball. It's murky, it's foggy, right? But nonetheless, let's take a look. What do you think might be different then?
I think a couple of things stand out. One is that I'm hoping my role tends to move to more of like a board advisor position. So the challenge with that role is that you're trying to give advice and guidance in very small chunks. I mean, a typical board advisor role is a couple of hours a month. And so you've really got to kind of do things differently that you can be impactful in 1 or 2 meetings a month. So I feel like that's a challenge. Most of my clients now, and I work with many hours a month, and I spend time with them. I understand them, and now I'm trying to shrink that advice and guidance down to a smaller piece of time. Interesting challenge, but I think that'll be open. The other that I really don't know where it's going to go, but the world of AI is just incredible. The speed that it's changing, and how that could influence the work that I will be doing in 3 years' time. I'm mostly working with AI startups in terms of guidance advice. So I'm right in the depths of how to use AI. And I think at this stage, like, a lot of the AI is into sort of the practical and the operational steps. The AI is coming in to replace a BDR, for example. I'm yet to sort of see AI in leadership and executive decision making, but I feel like that's the direction. Within 3 years, we'll start, like, you'll have an AI board member that will be providing guidance in the same way that I provide guidance to companies. And how will that dynamic work?
Fascinating. An AI board member. Fascinating. Yeah. And you would have to tell it somehow how you want it to act, right? If you want that to be, I don't know, the squeaky wheel, or if you want that to be the policy, the compliance analyst, or interesting.
Well, actually, I think managing AI is going to be a whole new management topic, because some of the companies I'm working with are essentially building digital AI employees. And so you're going to have an AI skill set, like a BDR, for example, that replaces a human. But what do you do about guiding them, giving them information, steering how they behave? That's something I don't think people have really started thinking about. I mean, you take an employee, you're motivating them, you're guiding them, you're giving them the compliance rules and guidelines. Well, if you replace that employee with AI, those things are still needed. Like, the AI has to have guardrails. It has to understand the compliance needs. And those things change. It's not like you just necessarily code it at the beginning and it will work for 5 years. And I think that's becoming a future challenge for management as AI workforce starts to become real. It's like, how do you guide and manage that? And if AI is off the rails, like, how do you fix it?
Yep. Yep. On a smaller scale, in my experience at the moment with it is that the quality of the answer you get from the LLMs is really strongly dependent on the quality of the prompt that you gave it. But depending on how you frame the question, a very different answer comes out. And
very different answer. And I think the quality of the data that you're able to provide to it is important. Sure. My biggest frustration at the moment with AI is it's very reluctant to say that it doesn't know how to give you the right answer.
Right.
And so it will mostly kind of make stuff up.
Yep.
Rather than say, I really don't feel confident giving you an answer. And so that's probably the biggest challenge is, like, is this answer something I can trust, or is it just made stuff up for me?
Yep. Let me ask you one last question, Paul, and then we're going to wrap it up. When you look at peers, when you look at other tech executives, what is something that you think you would want them to do differently? Or what is some advice you would want to give them when you look at some of the standard behavior that's out there?
Well, honestly, like I tend to look at them the other way around. I'm always in the learning mode, and I always like to see like what somebody's doing a little differently that I could learn from, and I think that's good. Relationships and communication is some things that some of the CIOs are just way better than me at, and they really have some skills in that area I love to learn from. I think what I perceive in some of my peers is this lack of real business focus. Okay. I feel like the CIO role is a business executive first, is a technology executive second, and you're enabling business through technology. And certainly my peers get a little too enamored with the technology and focused on the technology. That's an area that some, not all, but a few of them I think would benefit from just getting more into the business, a role in the business, and focusing more on being a business leader.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I've heard other CIOs talk about the experience of being at the kids' table at Thanksgiving, meaning they're not at the big people's table, right?
Yes.
And I think that's the key to getting to that table. Yeah. Paul, it's been a real pleasure having you with us today. Many things will stick with me, the leaning into the risk and also the early transition that you described into leadership. Thank you so much for that.
It's been great to be here, Joseph. Thank you so much.
For everyone else out there, make sure to like, subscribe, and visit us again for the next episode of the Top Innovator Series. And until then, make sure to keep your brain cells active because it really matters.